The Grosse Ile Township Public Service Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll call the roll. Costick is here. Kennedy, our vice chair, is going to miss tonight's meeting. He's excused. Lance Schmidtke.
Here.
Lenny Pedestris.
Present.
Ray Biddle.
Here.
Linda Stanko.
Here.
And Kevin Flavin.
Here.
We also have here at the meeting tonight our township manager, Derek Thiel, and our field representative, John Keim. Welcome. And nobody's in the audience tonight, so I guess we'll move beyond that. The first item is approval of the agenda. I'll make a motion that tonight's agenda be approved as distributed. Is there support?
Support.
Supported? Any comments on the agenda? If not, all in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we have two sets of minutes we need approved. The first set is our March meeting, and I think when we met in May, the minutes were not ready, I guess, right, Derek?
We didn't have the number of people that.
Oh, that's right, right. We needed the proper quorum to approve it, so, right. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the March 2025 meeting of the DPS Commission.
Second.
And it's moved and supported. Are there any comments from that meeting? Just one thing I noticed, that's relative to our meeting tonight, we did approve in our budget in March, a $70,000 item to replace the computer systems in several of our lift stations, our pump stations, and our bid was $67,000 some dollars, so we were pretty close on that. So that money is approved in our budget, so we'll come back to that later in the meeting. All in favor of approval? Did I already call the roll?
No.
All in favor of approval of the March meeting, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have the last month's meeting, May 13th meeting. I'll make a motion for approval of those minutes. Is there? Okay, it's been moved, supported again. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We go through the first few items rather quickly here. Next, we have approval of our statement of vouchers that were paid for the month of May for our water fund, our sewer fund, our wastewater fund, our refuse fund, our roads and drains. You've had a chance to look at those. I'll make a motion for approval of the vouchers as presented to us. Is there support? Lenny Pedestris seconded it. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the vouchers indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The next item we have is review of our statements of revenues and expenditures for the month of May. And we're only into the second month of the fiscal year, so everything looked in order to me. Does anybody have any comments? Anybody notice anything?
It's pretty early.
Yes, so with that, we'll just receive and file the statements of revenues and expenditures. And finally, on our quicker items, we have approval of the treasurer's report for May of 2025, and that's found on page 25. Anybody have any comments on that? I'll make a motion to approve and accept the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Seconded by Biddle. And are there any comments, questions? All in favor of approval of the treasurer's report indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the treasurer's report's been received. The only thing I would notice on the treasurer's report on page 26 is it looks like, and maybe you're going to speak to this later, Derek, it looks like we have about 1.7 million in our road fund yet, and I know we've already contracted out for about $1 million of that, but we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. And I know you have to make bond payments from some of that money that's in there, but Maybe you'll comment on that later.
Yeah, same thing stands, as I mentioned last month, which is we're still waiting on that final invoice from ASI on the road work that was done last year, and that was like $200,000. So we still haven't gotten that invoice yet.
Oh, okay.
So that would come off the top of that, and we can reconcile, the account once that occurs. So-
Forgot, you mentioned that. What's their delay?
So they haven't invoiced us for the final portion of the work that they did, and they haven't invoiced us because there was restoration work that was, that hadn't been completed. So they were supposed to do, I think, restoration work last weekend, so I gotta check with Rains to see if that's been completed. And then they were going to email them about their final payment once that work was done to our satisfaction, so that's what's going on there.
So all the money I think I see is not all there.
Correct, yep.
They were here.
They were here, okay.
Very good. Okay. We have a couple of action items tonight, and the first item is to recommend from the Public Service Commission to the Grosse Ile Township Board the authorization of a contract with Kennedy Industries for the replacement of level indicators and main computer systems for 4 of our 5 sanitary sewer lift stations at a cost of $67,600. Somebody like to make a motion before we talk about this?
I'll make the motion.
And that was Lance?
Lenny.
Lenny. Don't be so quiet down there, Lance, at
Thank
the
you.
other end. Okay. So that was a.
No better.
Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Stanko supported. With that, Derek, you want to add to what I've already read?
As you had mentioned, it is a budgeted item. It involves the replacement of the main computer systems and level sensors in 4 out of the 5 sanitary lift stations. We replaced the computer system and the level sensor in the 5th system, I believe, a year ago, which is the East River Lift Station, which services Elba 1. This is a sole source provider, and Kennedy is the sole distributor of this equipment for the type of pumps that we have in these various lift stations. The other vendors that would be able to provide that are out of market, and they kind of are territorial. So certain vendors supply certain areas, and Kennedy is the one for this equipment for this this type of pump. This just ensures that the pumps sense the level in the lift station accurately and function and turn the pumps on as necessary to make sure that the pump takes care of the water that's coming in when it's supposed to. We have had some problems over the past couple of years in some of these lift stations where the existing equipment isn't operating properly. Fortunately, our staff at the wastewater treatment plant, part of their rotation is to go to each one of these lift stations on a regular basis and make sure that they're functioning properly so that they were able to catch those malfunctions as they arose. But obviously, they're not here all the time, so making sure that we have reliable equipment servicing these pump stations is critical to make sure that we don't have basement backups of sanitary sewer. And most of these pump stations are located on the south end of the island where the elevation is much lower, so you don't have as the gravity necessary to push the sanitary water towards the plant. So these lift stations help to assist it to go in the direction it needs to go, lift it to areas where gravity can take over.
Okay, so it's open to discussion. Are there any questions from the commission members? It's a pretty straightforward project. No questions? Well, we have a motion and second for approval of the $67,600 to be paid to Kennedy Industries for replacement of the level indicators and main computer systems at 4 of the 5 sanitary lift stations operated by our wastewater treatment plant staff. I'll call for the motion. All in favor of this purchase indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So we've gone through that item rather quickly. Thank you. Next, we have a longer item to go through, and I'll read what it is. It's based on the Grosse Ile, based on the recommendation from our engineers. The Grosse Ile Department of Public Service Commission hereby recommends the award of a contract to the low bidder DVM for sewer lining and structure rehabilitation at a cost of $1,688,281, plus a contingency of 15%, making the total contract cost $941,523.15. Derek, I'll entrust you with the history of this.
So this is a rebid. If you recall, probably 3 or 4 months ago, this was brought to you, but the low bidder backed out of this work. Just to explain it to the public, years ago, and we continue to update it, though we established a asset management plan. We inventoried the entire sanitary sewer system. That asset management plan put together a list of capital repairs that were prioritized. So we took that list and set that the highest priority items at the top of our agenda to address, and we're addressing it through this project. There are maps that are included in the action item, which I can put on the overhead, that shows the locations of the various work that we're going to be doing. This is also a grant-funded project, so we received around $3 million or so from the federal government to do sanitary work around the island. And at the wastewater treatment plant, we've used about $700,000 of that already for the HVAC system at the plant. This will be a large portion of the remaining money that we have available, and that's at an 80-20 split. So of this $1.9 million or whatever it is, we'll only be responsible for 20% of that. The federal government will cover the other 80%. We are still responsible for all engineering expenses, so there isn't a cost share for that. We're responsible for 100% of that, but a large portion of the $1.9 million will be covered by the grant. So in addition to contracting for this work, bidding this work, we also have the necessary paperwork that the federal government requires for compliance to make sure they receive our money back. So we work with the EPA on a regular basis along with RAINS to make sure that that's all taken care of. So I know there might be some questions about what exactly we're going to be doing. So Charles Rain's company actually forwarded along a couple of different videos, which I think are very beneficial for the commission's understanding if there are any questions, or the general public's understanding of what we're going to be doing. So if you guys have a few minutes, I can go to the podium and we can go over those.
By all means, that would be very helpful.
So John, you're more than welcome to help me out with some explanations, because John is well aware of the type of work that we're going to be doing. The scope involves basically 3 different repair methods and 3 different types of repair. So there's the methods, and then there's also the type. So you might have one method that's applied across a couple of different scenarios, like, for example, lining, which could be done in a spot location, or it could be done on the full length of the main. So that's an example of a method across a couple of different applications. So so we have spot lining, we have whole main lining, and then we also have structure chimney repair. So that's your sanitary manhole structures that go down to the main itself, the repair of those. The first one I'm going to show you is spot repair. So in this example, you have 2 chimneys or manhole structures. You have the sanitary main between those 2 structures, and you have a fault somewhere along that line, okay? In this example, it's about at the midpoint. You see where my cursor is. So what happens is the vendor utilizes a liner material, which they insert into the pipe, and then they inflate it in the location that the fault exists. So, and this is an example of that. You see they insert the liner, which is deflated at that point to the place of the fault, and then they remove the apparatus that they use to put it in that location. That liner is impregnated with a resin, and when they insert it in the pipe, they expand the material. That resin cures in place, and it turns what is a fabric-like material into a hard structural liner. So here's another good example of that.
Lowe's and Home Depot both can't stand when you do this, but there's nothing they can do to stop you.
And I don't know what that is.
This new $80 jet pressure accelerator
Skip that. Yeah.
That's a different one. So here is example of that spot liner. So generally when they do this, they always clean and televise the pipe, so they make sure that the pipe is clean prior to putting in this spot liner as well as the full length liner. Televise it to determine where any drops or taps might be, and then televise it after the work is done. So this is the resin they're putting on the fabric. The resin generally reacts to temperature. That's how it cures. So they'll normally put some sort of steam or heat on the patch location to cure it. This here is your inflator, so there's basically like a balloon in there that expands that fabric into contact with the pipe, the host pipe. Let's just assume the fault is in this location at the midpoint. And then the balloon is deflated and brought back out of the pipe. And this here is the liner on the inside of that host pipe in the location where the issue existed. Another example is the sewer lining of a full length of pipe. Okay, so this is going to be the case in some of our applications.
Today, we're down in the southwest part of Blaine, and we're going to take a look at a process we're using to replace some of our older sewer lines. The sewer lines that are down here in this part of town, and this is our oldest part of town, are in the neighborhood of 40-plus years old. They're the old clay tile type sewer pipe, and it has a usable lifetime of about 40 years. So it's time for us to replace them. In the past, when we had to replace sewer lines, it would involve ripping up the entire street and putting in the new pipe and then rebuilding the street over it. However, we're using some new technology to replace these lines that involves injecting a resin into the pipe and then letting it cure. Costs a lot less money and takes a lot less time. With me today is Anthony Adderhold with the company In Situ Form, and they are doing the work for us down here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the process that they're using. First of all, Anthony, welcome to Blaine. Thank you for seeing us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and I would love to explain the process.
All right, thank you.
Once we identify where the project's going to be, we'll get a contractor out. They will do a pre-cleaning of the sewer line. And while they're pre-cleaning the sewer line, they're identifying and measuring the lengths, the inside diameters, and locating where all the services, the private services are to the homes or businesses. Once we get those lengths back from the contractor that did the pre-cleaning, we'll custom manufacture these tubes. And these tubes consist really of two parts. There's a polyester felt, that's what this part is. Then there's a polypropylene liner. And that's what's probably going to be hard to see on the camera, but it's a smooth surface that ultimately gives you a faster flowing, smoother walled pipe once it's completed. Once the tube is designed and manufactured, it's then shipped off to our wet out facility, which for us is Indianapolis. It's then impregnated with a resin. For the project in Blaine, we're impregnating with a polyester resin, which is a standard gravity tube resin. It's impregnated with the resin. It's then put into a refrigerated truck where it needs to be below 33 degrees. Otherwise, the exothermic reaction starts. If anybody uses JB Weld, you notice how you mix the two products together and it starts to create heat. We need to keep it below 33 so that that resin does not get hard. It has a pot life of about 30 days once it's in that refrigerated truck, and we maintain that 33 degrees. Once it's on the site, we'll pull it off the truck, and it's actually coming off the truck inside out. So the wetted perimeter, which is the polypropylene liner, is on the outside. We'll put it through our what we call the chip unit, and that's actually our inversion unit. And if anybody folds their socks up in a ball, when we're unfolding the socks, that's really what the inversion process is. So if you can see this in the camera, when we're inverting it inside out, or turning it inside out, that's actually the inversion process. So now you have your polypropylene liner on the inside. We invert it the full length of that shot, usually from manhole to manhole. And in the case that you can see behind me, we're inverting this right now with air. And we will then cook it or cure it out with steam, usually at about a temperature of 240 degrees, and we're keeping it at a consistent pressure of about 7 to 15 psi. For a 4 to 500 foot shot, we cure it for about 2 hours. And once it's cured out, you get a product that looks exactly like this. It's a fully structural product that if that old VCP or vitrified clay pipe goes away, you're good to go. And once we're done curing it out, we will then identify again where those laterals are to each home, and we'll remotely cut those surfaces back open with a robot. And ultimately, that's it, in a nutshell.
And can you tell me what is the lifespan of the new pipe? Old standard sewer pipe used to have a lifespan of about 40, maybe 50 years. How long will this last?
What we've been finding actually is clay pipe truly probably 30 years. It's a great pipe, but it's very susceptible to root intrusion. This actually has a design life of over 100 years. So it's very similar to a PVC pipe that a lot of communities are utilizing now in newer construction. 100 years, we actually just recently, in situ form, a little background information, in situ form invented the product back in 1971. Just 3 weeks ago, we actually, company-wide, we looked at some video of some cured-in-place pipe that we installed back in 72, and it looks the exact same way it did the day we installed it. So that's a good sign. 38 years later, it looks the exact same way. It looks like we're going to make that 100-year design life.
With the old way we used to replace sewer pipes, again, we had to rip up the whole street. How much tear-up is involved with this kind of process?
Ultimately, zero. We're entering each line from the manhole. We're going to install it from manhole, the upstream manhole, down to the downstream manhole. And so, theoretically, you have zero invasiveness to the surface.
And when we had to tear them up, it might take us maybe to do a few block section, a couple of months. Start to finish, how long does this process take?
Because the cleaning process is a separate process for us, the cleaning process probably takes about an hour to 2 hours, and then we'll come in at a separate date. But once we're actually starting the lining process, once we're set up and we're doing the inversion and the curing and the cutout, about 4 hours for a 400 to 500 foot shot.
And can you talk a little bit about the cost of doing this versus the old way that we used to do sewer pipe? I imagine with not having to tear the street up and all of that kind of construction, this is substantially less expensive?
It is substantially less expensive. Previously, when the materials were more expensive and there was less competition, of course, this price was a little bit higher for the cured-in-place pipe. But current market conditions, this is averaging anywhere from $20 to $30 a lineal foot, and you're looking at a cost compared to open cut and street reconstruction, about 10 to 20% of a reconstruction cost. So there's substantial savings, up to 80 to 90%.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. I just want to tell you that over the next few years, Blaine is going to be doing about 40 miles total of its older sewer pipe. We have probably 230 miles or so of sewer pipe in the city. And this is the process we're using in our older neighborhoods to replace the sewer at a much less cost than we would.
So that's the second method. So you have spot repair, then you have full length repair, and then the third method and location is going to be in the structure itself. And this is a good video that explains the type of method we're going to be using for that under this contract.
Throughout this project, there's many different manholes, and every manhole has different characteristics inside it. Some are made of brick, block, precast. Throughout all these different types of manholes, the process mainly stays the same. We take our grinder to the top, removing all of the rust from the area. What this does is it gives us a good clean surface for our polyurea to stick to. We get our 3,000 to 4,000 PSI pressure washer out, and we pressure wash the walls with a rotary tip. It removes any loose sediment from the walls and makes it so that we have a good strong substrate to get to. And we get all the debris off of the bottom, get it out of the trough. We rinse it down, get it all good to go. Through our drying process, we use a carpet blower, and we have forced air heaters. Helps pick up the speed a little bit more. It's not necessary, but it just helps us get production up. Once that's done, we check for leaks. If there's leaks, we go through one of the leak stopping procedures. OBIC has its own line of grout products that we use. Some have expansions of up to 6,000%. Once all these leaks are stopped, we will clean up any type of material we have left down there, re-dry the whole area, and then we'll start our lining process. The primer helps the lining system to adhere to that metal better. So we'll start from the top, put the first couple layers on from above, and then our OBIC certified applicator will get inside the hole with all the safety and protective gear on, and it'll begin to apply the system throughout. It'll be applied all the way down to the water line inside the structure, and this will create a monolithic lining system that will protect all of the substrate inside of the structure. The OBIC armor system is a multi-layer system. The materials set up within 30 seconds of application. We don't have to shut off the manhole for multiple hours. We don't have to wait for it to dry. All OBIC lining materials are 1-to-1 ratio materials, which creates a contractor-friendly application.
So, and actually, ART, who is who's hosting this video, is actually, I believe, the contractor that is the sub under the contract that we have for this work. So, just a quick conversation about the locations. As I mentioned earlier, there was a map that was included in your packet that shows the various locations where this work is going to be taking place. It'll be throughout the island, and once again is based upon that asset management plan for the areas of highest priority. The red lines indicate the various locations that the work is going to be taking place. We will be notifying residents in those areas prior to the work occurring. If we're doing lining, there will be bypass pumping that will need to take place to isolate the line that they're working on. What they do is they pump from the upstream manhole to the downstream manhole to basically bypass the location of work to make sure that the sewer system still operates while they're doing that work. If there's a residence that's located on the line that they are lining, because that tap will be sealed off when they do that lining work prior to them coming in and cutting it out, the resident will be notified, just to reduce water consumption and water usage at that home during the period of time that they're working in front of the house, to make sure that that lateral doesn't end up filling up with material while their work is going on before that tap is cut out. That's the north end of the island, and then the south end of the island, those are the locations on the south end. So as you can see, there's a lot of different area that we're working on. So we'll be throughout the island during the months, hopefully, of August, all the way, I believe, until next spring, April, I think. So it's going to be a lengthy project. They'll be in our community for quite some time. So we did receive a number of bids. The low bidder was DMV Utilities. We did check their references, or Raines checked their references, and all the references appeared to check out. As a matter of fact, one of the references was actually Maria Sadecki, who was here providing you the presentation on the water asset management plan a couple of months ago. We've done a variety of work with her and her organization, so we feel very confident, if they've had good success with DMV or DVM, that they can do this work for us, as well as other references were contacted for other engineering firms and municipalities that have utilized them in the past. So there is a decent amount of contingency that is being requested to be added to this. Just simply, if we come across something while they're in that pipe, we want to make sure we have the authorization through the board and through the commission to, add that additional work if it's warranted, just simply because if they're in there already, the process to come back, it would just be counterproductive to the efficiency of the project itself and cost. So that's why the 15% contingency is being requested. So do you have any questions?
Anybody? Lance?
Nope.
Lance?
Actually, the same technology kind of process, they also use in water lines, right? Instead of just sewer lines?
They can do water lines, yep. Some of the issues that you have with water lines, though, is you have a lot of material in those lines, a lot of degradation of the pipe. So cleaning them out sometimes to get a flat surface to do the lining on can cause issues with the stability of that pipe. If you have to, they call it picking it out, basically go through and try to ream that out, you might compromise the water main, where it makes it incapable of being lined. That's just something you have to be aware of, when you look at the project, to see whether this is an applicable method for that type of pipe. So
Derek, does that mean that if the line is completely collapsed and there's no, say, terracotta, that wouldn't, how would you work?
for lining in this case?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it probably would not work. So you would have to go through and excavate that. But I think John can probably speak to that. We did come across some collapses or compromises in the pipe as we did the inventory. And most of those locations, if not all of them, were remedied when we found them, because if it was a collapsed pipe, it would cause issues with backing up sewers. So we usually address those as an emergency repair. And I think over the past 5 years, we've done a number of those locations. Yeah. So.
When you,
Identified, we repaired them.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
As
you.
soon as they were identified, we made the repairs within that couple day span.
Thank you. And can you use this with, a cast iron, or, I didn't understand, I assume all the sewer lines are what, concrete or terracotta?
Correct. Yeah. Most of them are concrete or terracotta. Yep.
And then water lines would be,
Sometimes most of the time cast iron or ductile.
you
So-
don't use that for sewers.
Do we have any of that in the system? No. Okay. So no.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, we have one force main, that's ductile iron. Elba.
And generally, that's moving water pretty quickly. It's not sitting. So
That ductile pipe has a coating on the inside, cement coating on the inside currently.
Lenny, you got any questions?
No, it's a great process.
Ray,
Nope, looks good.
Linda? Kevin, any other?
we were pretty excited when the bids came in. If you recall, when we went through the budget process, when we had that contractor back out, we were a bit concerned about what to put in the budget because we weren't sure how the new bids were going to come in, but we were pretty happy when the bids came in, and they were pretty close to what that original bid was and what we had put into the budget. So that all ended up working out pretty well. So.
Okay, so, first, I have a couple of comments I want to make, Derek. The one thing, for the viewing public, we talk in our budget every year about the sewer and TV inspection program that we do, the TV inspection and cleaning. Lenny, remember that discussion? And that goes back 6, 7, 8 years since we discussed this. So this year, we budgeted $250,000 for that. And our program is, every 5 years, we go through all the sewers in the township. So we do a fifth of the township, basically, once a year. And we pull a TV camera through the pipe, clean it, and pull a TV camera through, do all the inspections. And John, Keim, you're involved in those inspections. There's a video taken of the pipe. And so when we talk about where a repair might be, these so-called spot repairs, they can actually measure from the manhole how many feet you're pulling in. Say it's 200 feet in. They can actually measure where that either lead comes in or where the repair is necessary, and make a note of it, stop the camera right there, make a note of it, and then continue. So that's a key component of being able to do this project. So I want to back up a minute. And Derek, when you heard about this EPA funding program, you obviously applied for it, and I want to compliment you for doing that, extra work. But you got how much money total?
I believe it was right around $3 million, maybe a little bit more than that.
And that tied in with our expansion of our wastewater plant and for this work.
Yeah, it was actually when we had put in for the appropriation, it was more about the wastewater treatment plant to try to help out with the ACO work. But if you recall, and I've explained it a couple of times, so stop me if I'm being redundant, but we were far enough along with the ACO project where we couldn't backpedal to fulfill the federal requirements that the federal dollars had. So what we did is we went ahead and pivoted to other projects we knew were out there that we hadn't started yet that were coming from the same source of money, which is the sewer account, to make sure that we took advantage of those funds. And we went back to the EPA and had them modify basically the project allocation or the project scope to include this additional work. So it was still work at the plant through the HVAC stuff, but then we expanded those dollars island-wide to include this work here, so.
And this really affects the plant because.
Absolutely.
If we can reduce the volume, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's a very good point to make. You know, why are we doing this? So the condition of the pipes warrant it. I think on that video they said, you know, clay pipe is good for 30 or 40 years, but I'm sure the clay pipe we have in the ground is a heck of a lot older than that we're working on. And generally, when you have clay pipe or other sanitary pipe that is older, the faults that you're seeing are potentially misshapen pipe. You're seeing a root intrusion, and you're seeing a lot of infiltration and inflow. And that goes for the structures as well. So the more infiltration and inflow that we have, the more water we send to the plant. The more water we send to the plant, the more we have to treat. The more we have to treat, the more the cost. And then also the greater the chance for an SSO, because we have more water coming to the plant during a rain event through the I&I than what you should, because you have this inflow and infiltration into the system. So you dry up the system. By doing work to the system, you dry up the plant. It ends up helping all the way around. So,
Great. Well, to the staff, I just want to congratulate you for getting the grant. I think it's important, and it certainly helped us. Kevin, I wanted to mention, since you're new on the township board, so we've been doing this, looking at this a long time. And when this matter goes before the township board, I'm a little concerned that they're going to wonder, you're pulling a lining through, how's it going to work, how do you do that, and maybe have a ton of questions about it. So now I hope you can answer them.
You should see the video.
And maybe you'll show the video, I don't know.
maybe, yeah. If you feel it's beneficial, we could do that. And
I thought it was, because I had a lot of questions about what that consisted of, but with the videos, it answered basically all of them, Derek. So
Good.
that was very well done.
And that was Rains. They were the ones that put that together and said, hey, you know, this I think will explain a lot for the commission, and you know, it's be beneficial for their knowledge base, and when they're asked to make a big decision like this.
Well, even at a board meeting, you know, you're going to have a bigger audience, so you know, you show those videos, it's going to answer a lot of questions, not just for the board, but for the township people in the audience.
And so that's the first item I want to go through. The second is, if you look at the two maps that you included, which is the north half of the township and the south half of the township, there are literally projects, there are manhole projects, there's 60 different manholes that we're repairing. And from the north end of the island, Kevin, near where you live, where Meridian and Park Lane come together at the very tip of the north end, all the way down to Hickory Island, we're making repairs. Doing manhole repairs in both locations, but also pulling pipe or liners and sections of pipe all over the township. So this is widespread, and if anybody's interested, the maps are available at the township manager's office. One of the concerns that I had was, if you look at the bids, DVM Utilities, and they left $450,000 on the table. Between them, their bid of $1.6 million and the $2.1 million, that was the second low bidder. So the reference check was very important. And I understand that, and we've talked to Derek, both Derek and John were at the pre-award bid, or meeting with the contractor. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
And you're very comfortable that they can do the work and will do the work.
Yeah, I think we both had a good feeling that they were competent, and it was more than just a feeling. I mean, Rains did contact previous customers of theirs, and all the references checked out well. And Rains has a list of different questions that they ask. So it's not just, well, are you happy with them? Well, questions like, did they come in on budget? Did they ask for extras? Did they do this? Did they do that? Were they capable of doing the work that they said that they were doing? You know, was there often changes in scope of work? All those questions are asked of the references, and you know, so they do a very thorough review to make sure that all the things that we would be concerned about, you know, as far as the vendor's capabilities and the way that our contract would work out with them, those questions are asked. So.
Yeah, and I think that they've done work throughout Oakland County.
Yeah, a lot more work in like north of Detroit area, not so much downriver area, but I think that they're looking to get into this area. Yeah.
So that's an important point, Kevin, when you go to the board, I think, that the references have been checked out thoroughly. I want to comment, I told Derek I couldn't stand it after I read the report over the weekend. I'm number one, in the early 70s in my career, I was exposed to the lining. In fact, the firm mentioned was in situ form. There weren't many firms around in those days. In situ form sort of came up with this. And I just want to mention, I knew what the lining was about. We did it 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But I never did spot repairs. So I was just dying to ask about how do you do a spot repair with it, so Heil explained, then Derek explained. But when they first started doing the liners, the liners were very thin by comparison. Now, our liners that we're putting in, depending on the pipe size, are a 1/2 inch thick when they're done, or to 3/4 of an inch. So that's a good liner. It's not just like pulling plastic tarps through the pipe. You've got some structure to it, correct?
Yeah, and I think they are structural liners, so they are a standalone, they're a thickness that exists as a standalone pipe. So they don't require on the structural ability of the host pipe, they are a standalone pipe.
Go ahead, question?
That's great.
So what we're putting in should work pretty well. And then on the liners, the only question I have, are they pretty accurate, do you know, as far as hitting the dimple where they're going to drill out the lead? In your experience, John?
Absolutely. You can see it right on the camera. Plus, they camera before and after, so.
Oh, so they have a camera attached to it so that they know where they're hitting the drill. Okay, that answers that. So that is, that's the liners. And then when I read the manhole part of it, a manhole's a manhole and a cover. And then they start talking about the chimney of the manhole, and they're going to do all this stuff on all the manholes. Now, there's 60 of them, and they have different treatments for each of them. You've been involved in that, inspections, and you're going to be there when they do the work, I guess. So, do you have any comments about the manholes?
I'm confident they can handle it. Speaking with Fishbeck as the reference, they referred to them as MacGyvers. Whatever needs to figure it out to get it done completely, that's the way they roll. So yeah, I'm confident in them. Again, they're the same contractor we're using to televise as well.
The natural assumption is that where manholes normally leak is if the old brick manholes anyway, if they would crack at the mortar joints or below the casting, the top casting, sanitary sewer has no holes in it, keeps water out. But the first layer of brick or concrete, whatever it is, that's where you tend to get leakage, right? And later tonight, we've been talking about the wastewater plant. And the volume that we've been running through the wastewater plant, let's assume, and it's close to it, it's a little less than 1 million gallons a day, right, Derek, that we sell on average. Less than 1 million gallons a day. And we're putting an average of 2 to 3 million gallons through the plant a day without any rain. When it rains, we could go to 4 to 5 inches, or 4 to 5 million gallons. So I do hope that this work will help reduce the flows at the plant, and we'll be able to compare it, I guess. I just wanted to make those comments so that people understand we're not just doing this in the dark. I mean, we have a purpose and a goal, and I think it's a darn good thing we're doing it. So those are my comments. I just wanted to get those points across. So
One last thing worth noting is after the work is completed, ART will televise the completed work. They'll rate the sewer after the work is done, and then all that information will be uploaded into our asset management plan to make sure that it's accurate and current to show the revised, pipe condition following the work that was done. So.
Okay, so I know we read now I've lost track of, did we make a motion to approve this and support? Or didn't we do that yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so the recommendation is, based upon the recommendation of the Grosse Ile Township Engineers, the Grosse Ile Department of Public Service Commission recommends the award of a contract to the low bidder, DVM, for sewer lining and structure rehabilitation, that's the manholes, at a cost of $1,688,281, plus a 15% contingency, making the total contract cost to $1,941,523.15. Anybody like to make that motion?
I will.
Pedestrians made the motion. Is there
I'll
support?
support.
And Biddle made the support. Is there any further discussion or questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passed.
Can I ask one question with the, once this is done, that will take care of all the current issues that we know of?
Well, it'll take care of the higher priority items that are in the asset management plan, but, you know, we should look to move forward on that asset management plan as years go by. So, does it give us a whole new infrastructure? No. Does it solve all the problems? No. You know, but it takes care of the highest priority items, and then we can start moving on to the next priority item. So part of the reason that we redo the 5-year plan at 1 year at a time in a sequential 5-year schedule is to just review, have conditions changed, have priorities been modified, do we have a fault that we didn't have before? So I don't know if that answers your question. It takes care of everything that we know is a highest priority right now, but those priorities over time will change.
So the most critical priorities are taken care of, and every 5 years you're evaluating the system.
Yep, and so what we did 5 years ago was now being redone now, and as we move along, you know, we'll update that plan, and then we'll reevaluate what's next. So,
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Plus, Kevin, it gives us a chance to clean each sanitary sewer once every 5 years. I mean, flush it out.
Along those lines, are any of these lines compromise or too small to do this in, or they're all we have enough?
Large diameter, yes.
Yeah, I think a minimum size is 8 inches, right?
8.
Yeah, for a residential street, normally 8. And there might be some old ones that are 6 inches, but I don't recall that anywhere.
Those are just the leads from the houses.
Yeah,
6.
I think it's been a long time since 8 was the required minimum for a line that services multiple homes.
Thank you.
All right, well, good job there. And so we got through our 2 recommended action items. Next are discussion items and managers report. So Derek, you want to start at page 47? Is that where that would start? Or no?
Yeah, 47. Yes, that's correct. Phase 5 is cleaning and televising. John, do you want to address where we're at with that, where they're currently at in the community?
Yeah, they're not back yet to get restarted in this season. They were waiting on the bridge closure, so now they're gonna have to wait for the next bridge closure as well.
Okay. All right. Plant improvements, so that's the ACO. They're preparing the response for the PPC, so basically that's the certification of the work that was done. They're preparing that plan to certify it, which is required to be submitted to Eagle, so that's currently in the process. But for the most part, all the ACO work is done over there. Now it's just showing Eagle that it works the way it was engineered and designed to. The AMP was submitted, so that's in compliance with Eagle requirements, which is our asset management plan, which we have to report on where we're at each year with the work that we're doing. Obviously, this type of work that you just recommended for approval tonight factors into that. They want to see you taking care of your highest risk issues and areas, which we're working on that obviously with the work that we talked about this evening. Effluent and influent meters, They're in the process of filing their Part 41 permit for both of those, and then those projects will have to be bid for the replacement of those. That's basically, those are the meters that track the water coming into the plant and the water going out of the plant, which is critical for our reporting. The SFE filtration system was approved by the Township Board last night at their meeting, so we've given direction to the vendor to start with that process to do that work. The AMP for the water system, that was finalized and presented to the commission. We still have to talk about that financing plan, so hopefully in the next couple of months we'll be doing that. The Elba Island Water Main Relocation Project. Mr. Keim and myself had a meeting with the county about a week or so ago. They've indicated that they anticipate receiving some additional road funding in the month of October. And our understanding is the engineering division has been given authorization to pick back up where they left off with the 3 different bridge projects that we had talked about previously. That was Swan Island, that was Elba Island, and that was Ferry. So they wanted to meet with us to talk about Swan. John, I did receive a copy of that construction easement, so you and I have to get together on that to meet with the homeowners over on Swan here in the near future. So they're commencing, or they're continuing with the engineering for Swan. Elba, it's their intent, I believe, if that additional funding comes through in October, to bid that during this winter and start construction next spring. So what that means for us is we are going to need to engineer and bid out the replacement of the Elba water main. So Raines has been given the authorization to start that process. So that will be coming up here in the near future in the form of a bid and a recommendation to the board for approval once we get that done. Basically, we have to replace that water main because our existing water main is within the perimeter, not the perimeter, but the footprint of the new bridge on Elba Island. So that water main is not that old, but you know, we have to move it because we're within their right of way, and they need that space to be able to construct that new bridge. And then Ferry, my understanding from our meeting is they were dealing with some SHPO issues on that, which is the State Historical Preservation Office. So they're required to get clearance through SHPO because that bridge requires federal permits to do work on, even though it's local funding. Because of the federal permit aspect, they still have to get SHPO clearance. So that's the 3rd bridge that they plan on doing work on. So those sound like they've been restarted, and as a result, we're going to have to restart our conversations about Elba Island water main. So you'll see that here in the near future, you know, as far as a proposal to approve. So any questions about any of those?
The question I have is, where's the existing water main? Is it on the south side of the bridge?
Yes, sir.
It's under the canal or the water?
Correct. Right against the bridge abutment currently.
Oh, it's against the current abutment. Oh, okay. And you say it's not that old, but it must be 30, 40 years old?
How old?
91.
91, yeah, so not even, well, yeah, it'd be 30 years old, 30-something years old, yep.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's good news.
Yeah, and thanks to John. John is kind of bird dogged. We are going to need some construction easements out there for our water main, and John was able to work with the private property owners on either side of where we need to run that water main to get construction easements to put a water main across that canal in an area that's far enough away from our sanitary sewer, because we have sanitary sewer that runs in that area as well, and the regulations require us to be a certain distance from that sanitary sewer where we put our water main. So, you know, thanks to John for doing the work on getting those easements so we can have an easier job of putting that main in.
And similar to what we did on Meridian Bridge, is the water main going to be encased in a capsule, a steel capsule? No?
Directional drill. Well, see what the bid comes, but that's the plan, directional drill it.
So similar to what we did on Meridian?
Yeah, but didn't that put in a pipe?
No, we
We didn't
put
encase
casing in.
Meridian.
That was the original plan, but it didn't work out because the water level was too high.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's very good news, though, on the bridges.
Ferry Road and the, Ferry Road is pretty much done, with the exception of that restoration we talked about earlier. Elba Island, we're waiting on, the Free Bridge, weight limits to go back up and for it to be open permanently before they're gonna do that work, as well as the street sectioning. I think at my last meeting, with you folks, I had talked about the township, county partnership. I don't believe I've told you, but, since that last meeting that we had, we did get, notification that they did, award us, $411,000 for that, partnership. I had expected to have the IGA, already, but I haven't gotten it yet. It was actually on the agenda for the board last night to approve, but I never got a copy in time to present it to the board. But verbally, they've told us it's been awarded. I'm just waiting on the official paperwork for that. So that's good news. I've already communicated that to Rain so that they know and can communicate to the vendors that we're using for the asphalt payment and the concrete, that we're planning on extending those contracts or expanding them to include additional work. So, we'll evaluate that once that IGA is received, and then obviously they mobilize to come and do the work.
So you said 411,000.
Correct.
That is county money coming in.
Correct.
That's flowing through them. So all we have to do is use our current funds to match it.
Correct. Yep, which those current funds were funds we had already appropriated for that work. So it allows us to just basically double that work.
Glad you brought that up. So if we want to expand what we're doing, is that your goal?
Yes.
Either get it done this year or in the spring?
No, the intent would be to do it this year, yes.
How are we gonna, that's a substantial amount. I guess all you do is drive around and figure out where you can put it, but are you guys gonna do that?
Yep. Well, and actually, some time ago, we had actually looked at those roads, and there was more identified by us than what money we had available under the project scope. So I think we've got a list already that we can expand to. I didn't think that we were actually gonna be able to achieve everything that we went over. Because what we do is we prioritize items, but we have a much longer list than we have funds available. And then Rains reports to us on quantities as we move along. So, we spend up to the budget. So we're constantly evaluating that. We'll just move farther along than what we would have been able to under our funding.
Especially with the concrete repairs.
Absolutely, with the concrete repairs, yep. Yeah, asphalt's a little bit different because you're picking locations. Concrete, you might have 1 pad, 2 pad, 5 pad more, maybe 10 pads more, 20 pads more. You can, play in the hundreds of dollars rather than, an asphalt patch might be thousands, so you could either do one or not, right? So.
Yeah, one item that we talked about, and I noticed it on the map we originally drew up, was that little section leading to Swan Island.
Mm-hmm.
Between South Point and Swan Island, there's a section of 300, 400, 500 feet that badly deteriorated asphalt. And it wasn't part of our original bid. We're going to hopefully add that to the asphalt portion of the contract.
We are. Rains has already been instructed to add that, yes.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Good.
Other than that, I think the report just has projects completed or on hold. So I have nothing else on the project status report list to report to you unless you have any questions.
Any questions from anybody? Lance? Kevin? Okay.
Next on my report is a water loss report. We are at 24.955%. John, did you want to comment on that at all? I know that you and I talked earlier about meters and lost water as a result of non-functioning meters because of the age, but do you want to expand on that at all?
No, that's pretty much the same as it always is. We're trying to keep a little better track on the flushing from the TV program, so that's helped a lot.
Okay.
We're bringing that number down.
Okay. With that concludes my report, other than I mentioned at the board meeting last night, we did receive a updated schedule on the toll bridge rehabilitation project from our engineers, which is posted on our website and also included in your packet. So I encouraged the residents yesterday evening to go to our website and take a look at that schedule. If they want to know the most recent projected schedule for engineering work, for bidding, for permitting, for contracting, for construction completion. So it was just included in your packet this evening for informational purposes.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Anybody have any questions on it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Great.
So, if I can backtrack to the county bridge, do we have, I mean, I'm hearing rumors floating around when they're gonna be closing that down again. Derek, do we have any update on that?
We don't, spoke with the county, I believe, on Monday morning, and the question was asked of them if they had a date yet. They said nothing has changed. They still expect the 4-week time period between closures to still be current, which would put us at like next Thursday or next Friday. I think that's the 19th or 20th, which is the 4-week mark. You know, they said as they get an exact date, they'll provide it to us. You know, like I mentioned last night, we encourage them to give us as advance notice as possible, because we have things that we have to plan for, whether it's wastewater treatment plant stuff or toll bridge stuff or public safety related items. And for that matter, you know, we have a lot of residents that are calling us wanting to know because they're trying to plan around it. So we want to try to give them as accurate information as possible. So we definitely encourage them to let us know as quickly as they can. So they mentioned maybe later this week they might have a better idea of the exact day after they have a couple of conversations with the vendor that's doing the work out there. So hopefully by the end of the week we might be able to provide an update as far as the next exact date.
Switching back over to the toll bridge now, I mean, we're talking about road repair. That approach going into the toll booth off of Jefferson, it's bumpy, it's all torn up. Is that approach going to be updated with the toll bridge engineering project, or is that something that we need to address as part of the road committee here?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of different things that we've been talking about. One is a holistic view of the traffic bottlenecks in that area. So I know you asked about road condition, but I think the overall traffic flow issues that we experience there really need to be reviewed. And when that bridge goes down for work, that would be a great time to work on the overall pinch points that exist there, and namely the Jefferson Bridge intersection. Mm-hmm. So I have asked our engineer, H&H, to put me in contact with a traffic engineer, which they did. It's my intent, assuming that the township supports this idea, to have a traffic analysis done during the next closure, to gather information about traffic flow, which would then and could be utilized to develop options for reworking that intersection there. Then it brings up the question, okay, whose responsibility is that, right? That's really not Rosehill Township's responsibility, but we could use that information to advocate to the county to make some modifications, because it's been a very educational past couple of months, you know, with seeing how the traffic flows in that area, when our peak times are, where the pinch points are, and what things we think might be able to solve some of those issues. Because, you know, I know there's been a lot of conversation about just open the gates and let people through, it'll increase traffic flow, but what you see is in the morning when the gates are open, you're not paying to get off the island, you're paying when you're coming on. You still have backups, and those backups are because that intersection of Bridge and Jefferson, there's a bottleneck there. You can only pass so much traffic through that area. So those things have to be looked at, and hopefully we can utilize the time that we're going to be doing construction on the toll bridge to implement some solutions there. The condition of the road there, we have been in conversations with the county. We had originally asked them to give us permission to pave the shoulder leading northbound on Bridge. The concern they wanted it permitted, number one, and a permit process is lengthy and wouldn't be able to be accomplished prior to the next closure. So that's unfortunate. But they have concerns about drainage. If you pave that, where does the water go? Distance from fixed utilities in that area, where if you pave the shoulder and people drive on it, does it create a safety issue? So they wanted to give it its due diligence to make sure that any work that happens out there doesn't make the conditions unsafe. So I can understand that. It's unfortunate because we wanted to see that work done before the next closure. In addition to that, we had asked if they could repave that area, just do a mill and resurface on Bridge. So they are looking at that. Whether it actually is able to get accomplished prior to the next closure, we're not sure. The other thing that's worth noting is if the township decided it wanted to pay to resurface that road or do road work on that side of the bridge, we cannot use road millage funds for any of that work because that road millage specifically says roads within Groseal Township. So that would be an improper use of those funds. So if we wanted to do that, those funds would have to come directly from the bridge account, which is not necessarily an issue. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware where the source of those dollars would come to do any road work on that side. So it's either got to come from the county, or if we decided to do it, it would have to come from the bridge itself. So the township is very aware of the issues that exist there. John actually was out there cold patching on Bridge Road, I think, a week into the closure because there was a massive pothole in a divot in the road where GLWA fixed a water main and they just put cold patch in it and they haven't patched it permanently yet. So we're very aware of the conditions. We're going to try to do everything that we can, but we have to be respective of the fact that that road is not owned by Groseal Township, and we need to receive permission before we can do work on somebody else's road. Otherwise, it presents a lot of problems with liability for us. So those things are in the works. We're well aware of it. We're trying to get things done. It's just there's a bit of a process that we have to follow in order to accomplish it. So,
Okay, great, thank you.
Where does Wayne County take responsibility north of the bridge? I know we were coming on Groseal, it says Wayne County Maintenance starts here. Where does it when you're coming off the bridge?
I believe there's a sign there as well, isn't there? Yeah.
Is there?
Yep.
That's where they park, the employees park.
So that's not owned by Riverview? None of it? But yet they have access to their marina or their boat
Through
launch
the Wayne
area?
County Road, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good answers. Thank you for that. Anything else?
Can I ask,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one question, and I probably missed this. Are we talking about another 2-week closure for assuming everything works?
I think when they had released it, it was 3 weeks.
3 weeks for the county bridge?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. Yep.
thank you.
Yes.
Talking about the roads again, Meridian, that stretch between the new bridge on Meridian to the Bridge Road, or even to Horse Mill, is really bad. Does Wayne County have any kind of timeline to repair that? They were supposed to repair that after the bridge?
They do. Sound like a broken record because I think we've been talking about them doing that for probably the past 2 years. But they have confirmed to me anyways that they are planning on doing that this summer yet, hopefully before school. But after the Free Bridge is restored to 40 ton, which can't happen until that 3-week closure that they have for a couple of weeks.
Because of the weight limits.
Yep. So,
Well, that's news. At least it's a stated plan.
yes. Yep, we'll see if that
I know you
happens.
can't rely on that, so.
Yeah, until I have it in writing and in a contract, I won't take it to the bank, but I know, I've never had them tell us that they're not going to do it, and they've been consistent in their message that, the restriction of getting it done has been the weight limits on the bridge, so.
Derek, I would say that's a big stretch. And-
Yes.
and even if they could continue from, is it Island Drive?
Island.
Island towards Church or Island towards Horsemill, that would be great. And then if they would finish it to bridge the next year, but
Well, if you recall, I think that the plan was to do a short stretch each year for a period of 3 years to do it all. Well, they got a decent-sized stretch done in year 1, but we haven't anything done in year 2 or year 3. So in my mind, they took a couple of years off in which they would have done something. They should finish up what they said they were going to do within the time period that they originally said so. So, you're correct. It would be nice if they could get something done, but, I would expect that they would do what they told us they were going to do some time ago, so.
My own feeling would be if I were sitting down with them and they said, well, we don't think we can get that whole stretch done because that's almost 2 miles, that you could say, well, could you do a mile? I mean, get something done. I'm just throwing that out there.
Sure, yep.
That'd be my feeling, get something done, so. All right, well, those are all good questions from the commission and good answers from you, Derek. All right, so then next we have John Keim.
Good evening, everyone. The only thing I have for you this evening is our consumer confidence report is due to our customers by July 1st. It's currently at the printer, so look for that in your mailbox before July 1st. And I'd also like to wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July.
Oh, thank you. You as well, John.
Thank you.
John, since you're here, I got 2 items for you. Both involve Macomb Street. At the corner of Meridian and Macomb, I guess it'd be the southeast corner, there's a catch basin on Macomb. It looks like it's dropping slightly. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir, and so is Wayne County. Pretty much they all are, and they prioritize them according to their construction plan, so.
Looks like, to me, all of a sudden I've been noticing that one, and I haven't noticed it before, so I don't know if it's taking a little drop in it or whatever.
It's maintaining the same. It's down about 2 inches. They're aware of it.
The only other thing is when you go to the post office and you exit the road, forget Playground Street or whatever it's called,
Playscape, yeah.
Playscape Street, as you turn right out of the driveway from the post office, you can avoid it, but there's a deep pothole there. Have you seen it?
No, sorry, I haven't.
It's about just shy of a foot deep, I think, maybe 10 inches, 8 inches. If you could take a look at that, that'd be a good thing.
Okay.
I mean, you can avoid it, but it's there. So I have those 2 comments. Other than that, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
And so, where are we? Now we have chairman's report, right? Yes. I told Derek every month we get this report from Ryan Welch. And Kevin, you get it. It's addressed to you as treasurer. And everybody, Lance, have you gotten one of these?
Yep.
In the email? And, it's, Ryan does a pretty good job writing the report, and unfortunately, he's not here. I talked to him yesterday and said I was going to read from his April report. I don't know if I should wait till he's here or go ahead with it. I wanted to give the people in the audience that might be watching, at least let them know that we do get a report every month to the commission, and a report submitted every month to the state of Michigan. That's required. And they're required to do daily testing in a lab of the effluent that comes into the water that comes into the sewage plant and the water that goes out of the sewage plant. So so we have a lab set up there. A lot of the lab work's being done at the bigger plant over at Pennsylvania right now because it's all taken over by a private company called Veolia. But I wanted to read a couple things. Maybe I should wait when Ryan's here. He did a real nice job in writing up what they run into at the water plant, or at the wastewater plant. And I told him I didn't want to embarrass him, but I wanted to compliment him and read some of it. But I think I'll just wait till he is here. One thing I do want to mention is that, tied in with what we're doing tonight, his March report, and I was going to read from the April report, his March report said that at 2:45 a.m. on one of the days, on March 5th, 2:45 a.m., he got a notice through the alarm system that the lift station at East River Road had high levels of water, so it wasn't working properly. And so it was due to a storm that we had back then. It was blowing the rain, it got inside the openings in the cabinet that housed the lift station. caused the computer to malfunction, so, when they got wet. So the staff came out and manually ran the lift station from that point on. And then it was repaired, and they put a new computer in it. So instead of doing 5, we just approved 4 of them to be done. So they went to all the stations, and they weather stripped them all and caulked them all the openings. So it's something that people don't think about, but this was at 2:45 a.m. on March 5th. And that's the kind of stuff that the staff at the wastewater plant does do. And he did write a real nice report of activities, so I think I'll just wait on that, instead of boring everybody with it, but and it's interesting. Anybody have any comments on the reports that Ryan does every month?
They did have a power outage at the plant. That's probably in the April report.
This is, yeah.
Yeah,
We had 2, actually.
yeah. So they were on diesel power generators over there for a little while. So there was, I think, a bill for $500 in diesel fuel or something like that. But I think that's probably one of the first times in the time that I've been here that they've lost power at the plant. So another, situation where they had to monitor the situation over there and make sure everything operated the way that it was intended to. So Ryan and I were in communication quite a bit when that was going on, but they were handling it, and, they did a great job of making sure everything was taken care of, so.
Well, he does say that this is from his report. The wastewater treatment plant had 2 power losses on April 21st at 12:05 p.m. I guess that's in the afternoon, at noon?
Yes.
And 12:35, yeah, whatever date that was. For the first power loss, the backup plant generator did not run because it wasn't a long enough period of time of power loss. But for the second one, it automatically kicked on. And he says we had to reset the multiple equipment. Excuse me. Okay, so anyway, you're correct when saying that. So, okay, that's all I have. We'll go around to the commissioners. Kevin?
Can we start that end of?
Lance?
I do. Might be a surprise to you, but looking at this lost water report, I understand where some of the percentages are a little higher than normal when there's, hydrant flushing, fires, water main breaks. But what do other communities average? I know we're at say 25%, but these numbers are all over the map. So is there an easy explanation of why that is, besides hydrants and water main breaks and fires?
You're talking about why from month to month they're so variable?
Yeah, you're looking at May and June, we're at, almost 60%. And then some of them are negative. I know sometimes they're a month or 2 behind, but we're going from 60% to, 12% to 16%. I see why we average 25%, but how much does the hydrant flushing and water main breaks and fires contribute to that?
It does, but John, do you want to cover the reason why? No, you go ahead. It's fine.
So it's the lag in the billing program mostly because we're buying all the irrigation water. The township buys it and pays for it, but they don't get reimbursed from the customer till 2 or 3 months later. So that's why there's a lag there. And as far as the flushing and also for the fire department use, we're keeping closer track of that. We're guesstimating to the best of our ability. We can see on the SCADA system when they're doing training that, we're flowing 1,500 gallons a minute for an hour, so we keep track of that. We haven't done our spring water main flushing yet, so you'll see that number help to bring it down as well. The state standard that they'd like to have is 15%.
And you'll see the trends repeat themselves year over year. You'll see like the month of May and June, I think you'll probably have a bigger discrepancy than, your months of October and November, which you start coming back on some of that, right? You have
negatives.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Second thing is, another surprise, when do you think the Parkway Drive signs will be replaced?
They're sitting in my
I
office.
told you, give me a month.
You had to do it. You had to do it.
I had to do it. I look at it every day, so.
Yeah, I think they're sitting in my office. I'll talk to John about it.
Need a hand, John, let me know.
Okay, thanks.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Lenny?
I'm gonna do it. Sir, we're equally as proud of him as you are up there. Good job.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
I had to thank the man upstairs.
Yes, okay, oh, that's right. Ray?
No.
Nothing? Linda?
It's nice, Lance. I always wondered that myself.
What?
Thank you.
I always wondered that myself about the water. It was like all up and down.
Yeah, if you group by year and look at it, it's closer, I think, to 20%, sometimes 19%, Lance. I mean, I tried to look at it. It's a little bit confusing the way it comes out. But you got to look at March to March, I think. At least that's what I picked out. Anyway, Kevin?
I would like to thank everybody on the commission for doing the work that they do. John, Derek, and there are a lot of people that we don't see, like Ryan and the people that work at the wastewater treatment plant, who are on call pretty much 24/7. And I appreciate, and I hope, and I'm sure that township taxpayers appreciate what they are doing. So thank you.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. It's all public safety. They still have the uniforms on.
That's right.
Anyway, so with that, I guess the only item is to make a motion to adjourn.
Can I make the motion to adjourn the
Yes,
meeting?
Lance, you can make the motion.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting
At whatever time.
at 8:21.
Lenny?
I second.
Okay, moved and supported. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good meeting, so thank you.
You'd be proud of you, my friend.